with a few days to Wello on Saturday night. Was that your best performance of the season?
I think we've still got some improvement left, and there's a few areas of the game that we looked at in the review that we can still get better at. Some aspects we played well, and we generally over the 4 quarters we did a lot of good things, and we played a team that was, as I said after the game, they were in real red hot form and very strong, and so to be able to come out on top was a really pleasing result.
First win of the post-Buddy era. Obviously, you played a lot of footy without him, but is the forward line starting to look a bit more unpredictable, or can it perhaps, post-Buddy?
Oh, I think that's a natural part of it. I mean, he had a big presence in our forward line, and we were really keen for him to play as long as he did, to be able to help sort of nurture that next group underneath and let them mature a bit. Young key forwards take a little bit of time to grow into their bodies, and so we were keen for him to keep playing as long as he could, and very grateful for that, because hopefully it's allowed that next generation of players coming through to be able to mature and start to really grow into their bodies and have a bit of confidence. And they won't be all as consistent. We don't expect any of them to be Lance Franklin. That's just that wouldn't be right. But hopefully we have a system out there that they can keep working on, and the more they play together, the better they get.
Are you happy with the Hickey McLean mix, the change that you made, and is it likely to stay that way?
Yeah, it's not something you absolutely set in stone. We did it as far as the ruck was concerned, but also what was happening in front of the ball. Obviously, with Lance not playing last week, it meant that McLean was a bit more forward than what he was been playing in the ruck. But we're also conscious of if we Jack Buller or those type of players we've got coming through as well, and so we want to have the flexibility to be able to make those decisions as we see fit.
So what's it like playing, I guess, for the first time in 10 years, knowing that Buddy's not coming back to the field? What's it like for the boys and for you?
In some parts it takes a little bit of getting used to, but on the other hand, life moves on and footy moves on really quickly. So we turned up this week and went to work. That's the way it was. That's the way it was last week after he announced his retirement. There's a period obviously of reflection. Everyone has that. There's a period of we're not going to be obviously running out there with him. The players won't be running out there with him. But then you get into the next training session and you get on with it, and you come up against GWS last week and you get on with it. So that's just the way it is. And in the end, there's plenty said about him last week, and we've got a season to finish off.
Yeah, of course. And I guess, are there plans for a proper farewell for him yet, or like when you'll speak to fans or anything?
I'm not sure just yet. I think we'd love to have him back and thank him in front of all the fans, but we'll see how that goes.
Where the talk's at with that? Has it been conversation about round 24 potentially?
I'm not sure. I'm not aware of that. I'm sort of focused on the footy at the moment, so I'll leave that to others to be able to organise.
You mentioned Jack Buller there. He's had a couple of 4-goal performances down in the VFL. Is it almost a case of wanting to make sure he gets some game time in senior level again in case you guys need him at the end of this year?
We'll pick our best team. We're in the situation we have to keep picking our best team to be able to compete every week. We just have to do that, and we're fortunate the last couple of weeks, even though we had some injuries. The week before we missed 3, obviously going into last week's game. Our reserves over the last 2 weeks have been in pretty good form. So Jack's been one of those. He played a half on the weekend and 2.5 quarters and looked really good. So if we need some players this week, hopefully they can be able to come in. We know it's a step up, but they'll be able to come in and help us out.
Obviously no Braden this weekend through suspension. Just what did you make of that instead? Just why did you guys choose not to challenge it?
Well, we considered it long and hard to be able to do it, to be able to challenge it. It took we went right up to the 11 o'clock deadline to be able to make that decision. Look, we felt we would have had a case, but given the chat around what's happening, and we just we considered that our chances maybe weren't that great, and we thought there were some arguments as far as genuine football incidents that happen in games that you can't do much about, but in the end we weighed it up and thought it wasn't worth doing.
Dylan Stevens came on as the sub and looked really good in that final quarter. Is he someone who probably comes into the mix to replace Braden?
Yeah, he's a chance. So he came on and contributed in the last quarter. Matty Roberts is another one that played well in our VFL team. Corey Warner, those guys that have had a bit of a look. Matty's been out for a significant amount of time with a knee injury. He's played the last few weeks. Corey Warner has been in and out a little bit and just getting a little bit of taste of senior footy this year. we feel he'll be better for the run for next year. So we've still got a couple of players that we can bring in.
And you treat this Suns game, is it sudden death footy you're basically playing now? Is that the way you're treating it?
Oh, we're training to try and play our best footy every week, and we've been doing that for quite a period of time now, and nothing's changed. You know, we know what the scenario is. We have to play our best footy every week, and no matter who comes into the team or who goes out of the team, we just have to do that. And we know that the Suns are a really strong contested ball team. They're fantastic around clearances. They've got a dominant ruckman. It's going to be a real challenge because their best footy is really good. We hope our best footy is good enough.
So obviously Matt Rowell, Tuke Miller, both looking really good. What are your plans to, I guess, handle those guys?
Yeah, we with a dominant ruck, and obviously Rowell, Anderson, Tuke Miller come back in. They're really good players, and we'll have to be really strong around the footy in our midfield. There's no doubt that that'll be a big battle, and the way that they're so strong in contest and so strong in clearance means that we'll have to be at our best to try and combat that and give our forwards a chance. We feel like we can score if we get it in front of the ball in our forward line enough, but we've got to make sure we're strong at the contest to be able to do that, and that'll be our challenge.
John, the hype around Errol just grows week by week. Kick goal of the year contender, that's inevitable. Is he someone you have to manage in that sense, keep maybe not just feet on the ground, but just try and check in with him and make sure it's not getting into his head, or is he someone you can just leave alone?
Oh, he works really hard at his game. I mean, we showed some vision in our review, not of him kicking any goals, of him working so hard off the ball and playing his role really well, and being down in defence doing it what he does. We feel like he's got a great attribute in that space as far as a two-way runner, and he works just as hard in defence as he does in attack, and that's what we think makes him a really good player. And he works really hard at his game. You have to kick him off the track most days, so he's got a good head on his shoulders.
So speaking about Errol, then how do you see his future? Where do you see him going? Do you think he has a bright future ahead of him?
Oh, he's going all right at the moment. I think he's got a reasonable future ahead of him. I hope he's got a good future ahead of him this week. It's going to be tough this week, against that midfield that you mentioned. It's going to be pretty tough. It's he'll be worked over pretty hard in that midfield, but we feel like he's got that running ability. He's good at the contest. He just doesn't rely upon his skill, so that holds him in good stead.
Obviously, Jake went off with concussion again on the weekend, but came back on towards the end there. I guess firstly, how's he going? But also, would you like to see more? There's been a bit of talk about flexibility around the use of the sub in terms of coming on while a player's getting that HIO test done. Is that something you'd like to see?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, isn't it, this space, and we've got to be mindful of keep evolving. And I think the competition's been really good at that as far as listening. There's probably a couple of things. One is maybe stop the game, and if there's a player that requires a HIA, now that'd have to be worked through. But it's very hard to get a player off during the course of the game when it's up and back and up and back. It's very hard to do that. And second of all, if you've got a player that you've already subbed off that's sitting there healthy, it doesn't make much sense that you can't bring him back. And I'm sure that the powers that be should look at that and maybe consider that in the off-season.
So, for example, like Logan came off on the weekend, like if Jake's down the room, bring him up the out.
Yeah, that's right. Like Logan's a good example on the weekend. We thought his first half was pretty good, and then it just poured down rain, and we just went a bit smaller. And then what happened in the last quarter? You get a player come off to be assessed, which is fine, but it'd be good to be able to bring a player on that's sitting next to you, nice and healthy, and nothing wrong with him. I'm sure those things will be looked at.
John, there was an article that was heavily critical of Tom Papley and the club this morning about a platform that he's on that potentially contradicts a club stance. What did you make of that, and have you spoken to Tom at all?
No, I'm not across that.
Will you touch him with Tom to see if he's okay with it, or anything?
Maybe, yeah. I'm not across it at the moment. So don't know.
Lots of chats around Hayden McLean as well. So what are your hopes for him? How do you see him developing?
Yeah, Hayden's is a player that's played in a couple of different roles for us. He's played a fair bit of time as a forward, as a genuine forward for us, a marking contested forward. But over the recent weeks, we've put him into the ruck. Obviously, losing Sam Reid, not having him available at all this year, hasn't played a game. We've been looking for that forward second ruck, and that's the role he's played. He's played first ruck a couple of times, and he's done that quite well as well. So his flexibility allows us to be able to play him in a couple of different roles. And so hopefully he continues along in good form. He's a good kid. He works really hard at his game.
Hayden's off contract at the end of this year. Is it close to maybe seeing a new deal for him?
I hope so. We're really keen for Hayden. He works hard at his game. He's flexible, plays a couple of different roles. He's doing a good job for us.
Given the wretched run that the club's had with injuries this year, to be well and truly in contention for finals this close to September, what does that say to you about this group?
Oh, we've been always confident that we've got some good young players in our team, and we have been tested with injury this year, certainly more than the last 2 years, almost twice as much as what we've had the last 2 years. We were tested again last week, losing 3 of our best players, and then still coming out against Giants and playing a competitive game. So it says that we're competitive, and but we know that it's so is everyone else. It's such a tough competition, and the margins are so small now, and to be at our best every week is something we strive to do, and it's something that every team's striving to do. But we know that with this group, we've got the belief to be able to be competitive every week and put our best foot forward, and we'll have to do that every week now.
And with an even share of luck, and you do fall in, do you think you can really make some noise in September?
Let's get through the Suns this week. We'll try and get out here at the SCG and get into it. I mean, that's how we've treated it, is try and do that every week. We have to get that right, and if we get that right, like we did last week, we'll get it right this week. We've got to get it right, and if that works out okay, that'll give us our best chance.
On Saturday,
Couple more,
you
please.
suggested that Dane probably won't quite get up this week. Has that prognosis changed at all?
Look, we don't think so. We'll see how he goes on Thursday. We're conscious, obviously, being a calf and a bit older. We don't want to put him through too many risks. He ran today and looked okay. We'll just see how Thursday goes before we make that decision.
And just quickly on Pete Laddams, in the VFL got cited for, I think, an umpire charge or something. Have you spoken to him about seeing what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit disappointing. It was just unnecessary. So he's got to continue to learn, Pete, with that. We need him. He's coming back from a bad ankle injury. He's had a lot of scar tissue, and so that's been troubling him. And we need him back playing. So that's got to be the focus for Pete, is back playing.
Back to Buddy for a second. So obviously he's left massive shoes to fill. Who are you looking at getting to step up to kind of be the leader that Buddy was?
Oh, it's going to be completely different. No one replaces Lance in a playing sense or a leadership sense, and so it'll be a combination of a number of them. It'll be a combination of all of our forwards in our front half, and I think that's a good thing. That's exciting. Lance was terrific, helped us win a lot of games of footy. But the footy club moves on, the footy team moves on, and we'll need the others to step into his breach, and that's what we're looking at.